Good afternoon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tumi Tladi. Let's get down to business. So, in our previous episode, we were looking at images and fonts. So please watch this video. It's a very interesting video. Please watch that. So let's mark this video as done. And then, because video number 18 for this series of Xamarin, I want to do app shell. So no, it won't work if I do app shell. Instead, I want us to do a page called client page. So we're gonna look at the client page. So this client page is very interesting. This client page is from startup. Well, when it comes to startup, you have option to say I'm a business or store owner. Alternatively, you can say I'm a customer or a visitor. So for businesses and store owners, they are called clients. So they will interact with the client page. So we'll talk about this. It's a very interesting page. It's like a login, but it's not a login. And I'm gonna go and show on the web application how the pieces are wired up together. And this is very important to notice something. If we go back to Web API series, please watch. I have Web API series. It's great. It's good. So what I want to do is that I want to show you that when it comes to this video number 5, access pins, I did show how the Web API is being structured to handle access pins, right? I did most of, demo. I showed most of the things while I was doing the demo. Now I want to show the missing piece using the Xamarin. That's why we're going to look at the client page. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is my physical device, by the way. Okay, so and then I'm gonna launch the app. I'm just gonna go to a client page and then we'll show everything pertaining to this page. So this is a splash screen. So check for the new updates. There's nothing. And then this is startup page. We covered this on video number 15. And then we also covered the font or some icons, these ones. And now if I click I'm a business or a store owner, this is a client, my client, right? So the businesses or the store owners are my client. So the page is called client page. If I click this button, as you can see, I clicked, this is where I'm at. So we'll talk about this. That's what I'm going to talk about. It's like a login, but it's not a login, and I'll explain the idea behind it. Okay, so let's get down to Visual Studio. So we're going to start with the models. So let's go to startups. You see client model. We're going to open this class. There we go. And then what else do we need? So MVVM, let's go to the views, content pages, startups. You see we have a client page, but let's go to code behind first. Let's leave it there. We'll come back to it. And then let's open the actual page. And then we'll come back to it. So we have the view for MVVM. And then let's go to ViewModels. Startups. Do you see how I put everything nicely in the folders? That's how good I am. Client view model. Oh, there's some validations. Oh, this is going to be a very interesting video. There's some validations. Okay, so let's go and look for the validations. They're in the folder called Validators. Startups. You see client validator. Let's open it. We'll come back to it. And then I believe finally we need the service. Again, startups, client service. There we go. So these are all the pieces, right? Cool. So we're gonna start with the model, and then I'm gonna keep on showing you the actual app, right? So for the model, we need the client, a business or a store owner, to give us the business number and access pin for them to be authenticated. I didn't want the login of username and password, no, because the number of times that the business or store owners interact with this part of the application, it's not even 50% chance. So there was no need for me to implement login and password mechanism. It's tedious, but this was a very innovative feature that I came up with called access pins, and I'll show that later on. So just know that business number, access pin, this is what the model it's requiring, meaning that it's a model, client model. It has two properties of type strings, business number and access pin. So now you know about the model. Now let's go to the view model. Now the view model, before I talk about the view model, it has a validator, right? So let's go to client validator. Now client validator is a very interesting class. Okay, if you have any thoughts, please leave them down on the comment section below, because the way I'm doing this is different. And this gives me an opportunity to talk about Fluent Validator within Xamarin application. So let's go and look at the dependencies, packages, and then we have Fluent, there we go, Fluent Validation, version 8.6.1. So now you know that I can still use it, not only for web applications, but also for mobile application. Good. Well, but the documentation didn't say so. I'm the one that did that. Now, how I did it, this was very important for me to do it this way, based on classes. So the very first class, it's a public class, client validator underscore 1. There's a reason why. It's very important, and I want to show that on the app. We have client validator number 2, client validator number 3, finally client validator number 4. So let me explain why it's important. With number 1, what we are validating only business number, particularly if it's not empty. That's it. But for this to be wired up, if you remember in my there's a video titled Fluent Validation, which is an external service. Please watch that video. Also watch a video of access pins on Web API series, because then you see more of this Fluent Validation, how is you need to go about it. So what I do have is that I have this class that inherits from, which is abstract validator, that takes in the object, which in this case client model. So out of this client model, I have access to this property called the business number, right? So I'm saying the rule for this business number should not be empty, and I also show with global variables for business number 1. Please pay attention to this. Okay, so this was very important, and I'll show you why. Number 2, the same thing, inheritance, right? But I'm still doing the same property. I'm validating the rule for business number. In this case, I'm saying the condition is that it must be 4 characters, right? So I have a helper method with the error message in case there is an error message. So let's look at the helper method, because I like to use comments, for readability and maintainability. So private, this one's a private because it's internal within this class. Private bool, be 4 characters, and then I'm saying we are targeting business number. So it takes in that business number that the user will type here. Whatever business number they want to type here, it's going to go and it's going to be checked. If it's not empty, it's going to have to come to a second rule, and then we are passing it here to say, okay, do we have this number of characters? So we are checking is it valid, and then we are saying is the length 4? If it is, return true. If not, return false. So this one's a boolean, right? Must be, it's a boolean. Cool. So that is validation for business number. Number 3 and 4, they validated the access pin. The very first one, it should not be empty with the error message. I'll show in a second. The second one, it also says it must be 6 characters for access pin. The same logic that we are checking the access pin that comes in. If the length is 6, if it's true, return true. If not, it's 6, return it's invalid. So this is why I had this. Now I want to show global variables, particularly looking at okay, so for global variables, we're gonna look at access pin or client page. Which one is it? let's see. There we go, client page. So from the startup, you want to go to client page. So you see, for business number one, it's gonna say the business number is required. That's for not empty. The second one is gonna say business number should be 4 characters. That's must. That's a rule for checking if it's 4 characters or not. And then for access pin, it's required, and access pin should be 6 characters. Please pay attention to this. It's very important. And then we also have the loading that's gonna say, please wait while we authenticate your access pin. So this is where I grouped all my global variables under startups, particularly client page. So we are done with validators. Then we can go to view model. Now the view model, obviously, like I said, every view model inherits from base view model, and then we did cover this topic of a base view model on our video number 9, where we looked at the base view model class. It's very important. So pay attention to how I word everything up. And by the way, this is very important that I explain something. Everything that you see here, it's my code. No one is taking credit for everything I built on this app. No one. I can only give a credit there and there, but this, how I engineered this, it's all me. I spent a lot of time doing this thing, testing it, and then it wasn't pretty, but I got it to work. Cool. So for global variables, this should be global variables. I'll fix it. So I have a private read only where I'm using this Validator. So I'm validating because I have 4 classes, right? So I'm validating against 1, 2, 3, 4 validators. And then, by the way, I'm still busy using my main computer to do this dependency injection. You know, this is not supposed to be like this. It should be injected using Constructor injector, but it's fine. So that's why I have the save is to say, this guy will talk to the web API, and the web API will go straight to the database and return some results. We'll look at that live in a couple of minutes. So I have to instantiate this object. And everything has to be private read only. It's a must. Then I started with the properties. The very first property, obviously, it's an actual business number. And then what's very important here is that it has this onProperty changed method on the set. Now, that business number is exactly what will be validated here. It's what you need to enter here, business number. Then, what's interesting, you won't see it right now, but I can show the error message underneath. I know you won't see this. I'll talk about this later on. So here I have another property of type bool. It's called validate business number, right? And then I'm saying should it be visible or not. So by default, it's false. I hope you understand what's happening here. And then I show the actual error message of when we validate the business number. So those are 3 properties that are very important for the first part. The second part that we have access pin. The actual access pin that gets to be typed, it should be 6 characters. And then the second property, we need to show the error message. We're deciding, do we need to show the error message or not? That's validate access pin. Should it be visible or not? By default, it's false. And then finally, the actual error message that will be carried out in case there is a validation error on access pin. So this property will handle that. I have to use the 4 properties because I have to leverage on property changed when we set it. And that's very important because why are they now by default false? Because they don't show. The icon doesn't show. Also, the error message doesn't show. Cool. Then we come to commands. And by the way, please watch. There's a video titled Commands where I show how Xamarin.Forms handle click event handlers of the button. So I have the button called Authenticate. As you can see, it's called Authenticate. So that will, when we press it, it will call this Authenticate method asynchronously. So we'll get to it at a later stage. Now, what's interesting is the constructor. So the constructor, we obviously want to start with the absent analytics, the same thing where we are tracking based on device name that this device launched the client page at this time. So we are tracking the event using Analytics API of Microsoft App Center package. NuGet package. The second thing is that we are clearing the validations, but before I talk about clear, I want to talk about this guy, where now we are instantiating these objects. Validator 1 is gonna be assigned to that object, client validator number 1, 2, 3, 4, respectively. Yes. Now let's talk about these helper classes, right? These helper methods, I'm sorry. So I'm clearing validations for number 1 and number 2. So why? So what it means is that I'm clearing validations. Number 1, it clears for business number. Number 2, it clears for access pin, and we'll see that in a second. So let's close the constructor. So what happens is that whenever this method gets to be called, obviously by default, we are calling it on the constructor when it loads, right? On the page, when the page loads. So we are saying this property, although we told it that by default should be false, yes, it is false, but when we call it, it's gonna hide them. Don't confuse those two. Don't confuse these two. We are still, when we call this method, we are still hiding them. And then the value for the validated base number should be empty. Then the second method that clears validation, for the pin, we're not showing it, and then we are clearing any error message. So I hope you understand, but we're gonna call them, we're gonna call these methods, as you can see, 3 references each. We are done. Then I'm going to start with validation number 1. But before I talk about validation number 1, validation number 2, validation number 3, validation number 4, let's talk about the method that gets to be called when we click that authenticate button. Okay, we said we'll come back to this guy. It's the last method. Cool. But there's a lot that goes into here. So like I said, before I talk about this validation number 1, 2, 3, and 4, we should talk about the method, because it is the one that triggers these guys. Cool. Now, I just realized that these methods, they should come after this main method. And this method is asynchronous, by the way, it's private. But why are these ones public? That's a very interesting question. Why did I make these methods public? I have to figure that thing out. Okay, so you will see with the base indicator, we did cover this video in one of our previous episodes. Please watch it. It's called base indicator view from Sync Fusion. It's a control. So you will see that, and then we just took a look at the message that will say loading. Please wait while we authenticate. I think yes, your access pin. And then we have a try and catch block. So after we show the base indicator, everything after all is said and done, we're going to dismiss that base indicator. You see that. So try. But let me do this first. I want to look at the exception. In case something goes wrong inside the try, we are doing a lot of things. The very first thing, we are causing the mobile device the physical device to vibrate. That's the first thing. We don't care if the exception is this or not. What we are doing is that we are causing the device to vibrate using this vibration API from Xamarin Essentials. I just realized something. I'm having a code and I want to prove this is no longer necessary anymore. I want to prove this. It's no longer necessary anymore. The idea was that in case there was any exception, but if the message contained my domain, meaning that it could not reach my web API behind the scenes, what it should do, it should dismiss. But why am I doing it here when I'm ultimately doing it here? Doesn't make sense, right? I should remove this line, because either way, oh no, but I should do it here. Why? Because it's not gonna get here because we're gonna kill the app. Okay, makes sense. It's justifiable. Okay, then connectivity is visible. We're gonna see this. What I want to do, let's see. Oh, I think I know what's happening. No, it's not. Yeah, no, this is not gonna work. I want to know if the toast message, if it's gonna be shown. No, it's gonna say, oh, we did cover this connectivity view right before this one, number 11. So it is gonna show that, but something's not right here. On the page, I have where I'm handling that, but not because of the when there's an exception. My argument is that not when there's an exception, this code is no longer working anymore, because the base view model, if I take a look at the base view model, it will handle that automatically. So let's go to view models and let's go to base view model. So base view model has everything. What I care about is the constructor, where we subscribe to an event. It will constantly check the current connectivity change and it will call check connectivity. This will handle showing this guy. It's the same thing. Basically, if there's no longer internet connectivity, it will show this. So what I'm saying is, and I want you to notice this. Do you see? This is not. We are not shutting down the application. I want to test this scenario. We're not shutting down the application, but on this view model, we are shutting down the application using the process.get current process and kill it. It works, yes. But after we delay for 15 seconds. But I'm saying this is no longer working anymore, because even if we could not reach the domain, of which it's always going to be impossible, but I think it can. Meaning that, yes, no, but how? I don't understand how. Let's say the server goes down, and then while I try to authenticate, I am connected. This device, as you can see, let me do this. It is connected to my mobile data, right? So I am connected, and then I click this button and the exception gets to be thrown. So obviously it's going to say I cannot reach this server because the server is down. Okay, yes, no, it's going to work. No, it's justifiable. I'm sorry, it's justifiable. It's possible. And in the else, I'm tracking whatever exception I have. But why am I not tracking the exception here? Okay, no, it's okay. And then we are showing the alert to say authentication error. Cool. So we are done with the catch. So let's go back to try. You see, I'm still learning, because I developed this thing how long ago? Well, I don't know. So the very first thing, this might be confusing, but I love it. I want to do this. I have a variable called validation1 cleared. It's a Boolean variable, as you can see, because it returns from validations 1. So meaning that we're going to go and call this method first before we can assign the value here. So let's go to that method. I said I'll come back to it. So this method is of type of Boolean, but I still don't know why it's at the top and not at the bottom and why it's public. So what we do is the same thing. I'm not going to do all of them. It's a var. I have a var, all validations cleared. So that's what I'm going to return eventually. By default, it's false. So I'm going to build up with this a client model object to say, listen, for business number that comes in, assign it here. And then we're going to use validator1 dot validate. So as you can see, it comes from Fluent Validation dot results. It takes in an object, right? So that's what I'm passing. It validates the specified instance, which is this guy, client model. And it's going to return the results here. If the results is valid, call that clear validations 1. Remember it? I told you we'll call it where we clearing everything if they were. And what we're going to do, we're going to say yes, all validations cleared, and we're going to return as a true, and it's going to skip else. But if it's else, what's going to happen is that it's going to get the error message from that validation result, because it is of type validation result. We're going to put the error message here. Whatever the error message, if it is the same as business number 1, the one that says business number cannot be empty, we're gonna now show the business number. We're gonna show it, and we're gonna assign the error message to this property. That's number 1. I want to do number 2, 3, and 4. Number 2, we are validating against still business number, but check what we are doing. We are validating against validator number 2, of which talks to validator number 1 underscore 2 class. From the validator, it's going to call and focus on this guy. Okay, so that's what we see here. Number 2, it's going to do the same thing. Number 3, now it's going to go to access pin because of number 3, validator. It's going to now validate. Let me close this one. It's going to validate this guy just to check if it's empty or not. So that's number 3, where we are getting the receive for access pin number 1 if there's any issue, but we are building the model against access pin. Cool. And then if everything went very well, if not, well, if yes, we are clearing validation number 2, and then we are saying yes, all validations are cleared. Finally, this is critical. Number 4, we are checking if its access pin it meets the requirement of 6 characters. If not, show the error message. If yes, clear. If there's any, it says yes, now they're cleared. Then we can say, okay, if this is true, we're only gonna get inside if only it's true. If it's not, we're gonna skip this. Pay attention. But if the validations for this guy were cleared, let me do this in live. Now I'm gonna type in a ridiculous business number. We'll talk about the UI in a second, but I want to show this. If I type in anything that's ridiculous, first, you can see that the control behaves. I know you can't see because I'm mirroring this, but that's not the point. The point is this: if this thing is null, as it is, it's null, and I click authenticate. Do you see that the validations failed? It shows with the icon. It says the business number is required because the validation number 1 failed, and then it skipped it. But if this guy is not empty, and that means there is something one character there, and then let me do this, and I click authenticate, it skipped that one. Now it says the business number should be 4 characters. So what happened is that, yes, if the first part of validations 1 were cleared, we're gonna now check number 2. Now number 2, if they're not cleared, we're gonna skip, because this is the if statement. If it's false, it's gonna skip this block, and that's what we see here. Nothing is gonna happen until you fix it. It's not even gonna bother to validate this access pin. It's not going to. This is how I engineered it. But I want you to notice something. If I remove this guy, again, it's gonna be empty, and I do this. Do you see how it changes this guy? That's a powerful on property changed from the base view model using iNotify property changed interface. Cool. But if I type in 1 character, at least just 1 character, doesn't matter what it is, and then I click authenticate, it changes. But as soon as I come to access pin, which is now we are validating number, if 2 is cleared, we're gonna now validate number 3. I hope it makes sense, this hierarchy. And then I try, you see I'm not typing anything, and then I'm clicking authenticate. It's still gonna complain about that guy because we didn't satisfy the 4 characters. But if I type in J, now, okay, let me just do 1, 2, 3, 4 so it can be clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Cool. And then I click authenticate. Yes, we did satisfy that, but the access pin now cannot be left empty. So this number 3 failed. So then it's not gonna do anything, it's gonna skip that guy. But if number 3 now becomes success, let's do this. We're gonna go to number 4, validate number 4, and check if the number 4 is cleared or not. And then if I type in number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, obviously this is incorrect, but I just want to show you that it's incorrect. But it cleared them, and now it's showing if we can do our thing or not. but it's incorrect because there's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see, authentication. Can you hear that it vibrated? Nicely done. Now it says authentication failed. We'll come back to this, but I want to show step by step how I'm validating those guys. And like I said, that's how I engineered it. But if number 4 was cleared, we're going to continue now to build a proper model, client model. And then we're going to now say client service post one client async. We're going to talk about the service in a second, and then we're going to pass in this model, and then we're going to return, what does it return? A boolean. Was it success or not? Asynchronously, and we'll come back to this. Let's go and check the service. Now the service, public class client service, post one, it's public asynchronously returning boolean. So it expects this object, right? Like I said, I'm still going to get rid of this. I'm going to use dependency injection, but with the help of declaring HTTP client only once and get to be used throughout the entire lifespan of the application. So this is wrong, I'm aware. So we're going to do this where we're going to use the JSON converter class to serialize the object that comes in into JSON. And then from there, we're going to use HTTP content to say we need this to be string content. And then out of that, we're going to set the headers, the content type for the headers to be application JSON. And then we're going to say, now we're going to use the client to post asynchronously. What does it take? It takes in the request URI plus the content. So this is the URL, as you can see. This is the address, and then this is the actual route. So this whole thing makes up what we call the URI, and then this is the content. And then what does it return? It return asynchronously HTTP post message. So if that, or the response message, sorry, HTTP response message, if it indicates 200, which is success, return true. We don't care about anything else, return false. Like in this case, it returned failed because that's what we see here on the actual device, which is failed. So this is a correct way to say the authentication failed, incorrect business number or access pin. I'm not saying which one it is, and this is the correct way of doing it. So now we have taken a look at the service. I know I'm talking fast. I'm trying to move a bit fast because we have a lot to cover. Okay, so this is where we get to the true or false. Was it is client authenticated? If it's true, okay, get in there. But else, you see, we are causing it to vibrate. That's what happened. And then this is what we are using as a user dialogues. We covered this in our previous videos. It's external doing a package to help us with these nice, message boxes in Xamarin. They're nicely done. You can customize them and all that. So that's what I show to say incorrect business number or access pin. Okay. My battery just got low. I wasn't even aware. Okay, cool. Now it's now on charger. Cool. Now, but if everything is a success, notice what I'm doing. I'm taking that business number, I'm saving it on this variable. Let's take a look at this variable. So we have a business number for voice message. Oh, so we need this business number. Please pay attention. We need this business number for voice message for the clients. Okay, so now we are saving it there. So let's look quickly at that. Is it a property? It's not a property. So mean that let's go and look for. There we go. Yes, it's a property, but under voice messages. So we need that business number assigned here. It needs to be stored there. So I'm using it. Okay, so we are done. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna now navigate it to voice messages page. And then, so then that's it. I covered this view model in detail. So let's go and look at the page quickly. But before I come to the page, let's look at the code behind. So we don't need this. We don't need the service. We need the validator. We don't need the model. We don't need the base view model. But the code behind of the page, what we do is that after we initialize the components, we're gonna now using API of app info from Xamarin Essentials, get the version number of the application, and we're going to put it here on the label. And then we're going to use a string interpolation to build up, this, because this application comes from this company called Frenzy Time. It's my company, but it's no longer operational anymore. So that's what we have, and then that's what you see here. Let me just dismiss this. So that's how we get the version number, and that's how we build this thing using string interpolation to get the date time now, particularly for the year. Cool. So let's see how we build this. Cool. Now, content page. We have access to the view model. We have access to text input layout. Now this comes from Syncfusion control. So before I go further, let's talk about how I managed to do this in Android. Like I said, this video is fascinating. Do you see this? Xamarin doesn't provide this out of the box, but thanks to the company called Syncfusion, I get to do this. So if I move this guy and click here, so this is a normal control. No, it's not a normal control. It's not a normal entry, but if I click, it's nicely done. So I was fascinated by this guy and the animation. Okay, so this is very important that I show that it is a NuGet package, because like I said, I show off everything. It's a NuGet package, particularly a text input layout from Syncfusion, right? Where it is though? This rotator rating parts. Wait. Text input layout. Where does it come from? Xforms. This is strange. Syncfusion.forms. Where is Syncfusion.forms here? Funny enough, I don't see Syncfusion.forms. Or was it not necessary on the share project? That cannot be. But for Android, you bring the NuGet package. Let me show with the references. And where is that Syncfusion forms? That's a very interesting thing. I'm sure it's bundled somewhere here. I'm not sure where. I can't remember. Is it Expander? I'm not sure. But what I want to show is how you initialize this in Android platform specific project. So what you do, or is it registered automatically? Okay, we don't need to do anything, but I remember for iOS, you have to manually do that because iOS doesn't render it manually. So we just go to app delegated class. So it doesn't render it automatically, but you have to do that manually. So rating, rotator, base indicator. I think it's an expander. I'm not sure, but you have to do this manually for it to work. Yes, it's expander. I believe it's expander. Yes, it's an expander. I may be wrong, but apologies if I'm not getting this thing right. And obviously we have reference to base indicator and connectivity view, and then the background color obviously for the entire content page is this one, and then has navigation bar false, and then the shell nav bar is visible false. And we'll talk about shell. I intend to do the video on app shell, so stay tuned for that. Is this guy that shows up usually here, so I say don't show that. And then obviously this is how we get access to client view model to bind to the current context, and then we build using the absolute layout, and then from there the first stack layout contains everything, but we have access to show connectivity and business kit. I'm not going to do this because we covered them in our previous videos, but I can still show them how they work. So stack layout, this is how we build what you see here. The label says welcome to identical docs. We covered this in a previous episode. But another stack layout, this stack layout. So what we do, center and expand for both horizontal options and vertical options. So this is the control. So I'm not using the entry control in Xamarin. This is not an entry control. This is a text input layout control from Syncfusion, from text input layout. So I got the hint that says business number. I'm only doing this once because I'm using it multiple times somewhere else. So business number, that's a hint. This is what you see, business number. If I type here, that's going to be the hint, right? And then let me do this. The helper text says, please enter your business number. It's what you see here. I know it might not show nicely done. Maybe I can change the color to be white because I can control the color, focused color and unfocused color. Char max length. Now, char max length is that as I keep on typing 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry, I did. Okay, 2, 3, 4. It's wait. What am I typing? 2, 3, 4. But as soon as 4, as soon as I type 5, it knows how to react. With the error color being red, and then container type it's outlined, and then outline corner radius 8. The caviness. It's a beautiful caviness. And then the entry. Now I can have the actual entry. This is Xamarin control, the way I can bind to business number. I can deal with the text color, placeholder, color, and then the keyword is text, the clear button visibility, that one, while editing, and then return type is next, what you see there. And then what you saw, those error messages, if I do this and then hit authenticate, this guy, it's all we see here. So it's on stack layout, where either we are showing the label, controlling it using this property, and this is the icon using font awesome. That's what you see here. And then the second one, this is what contains as the error message. So I hope you understand. The second one is similar. It's a similar thing. This one just says access pin. Please enter your access pin, and then it binds to access pin, and then everything is access pin. So this is what you see here. Lastly, the button, which is command button, it binds to a command, authenticate. We did that. Text is authenticate, and then the styles, it's buttons bottom. I did cover this, button bottoms. Please watch this video. It's on app.xml. So now I'm just flying now, and background color of the actual app as this one, and then we have the label, obviously, that shows the version. That's a version. And then we have the second label that shows the label company. There we go. Cool. I covered everything. And now what I want to do, let's go to Firefox. How do you authenticate this? That you asked. So let me fire Firefox. This is the last portion, because I didn't want Firefox not to disturb. Wait, Firefox, chill. I didn't want Firefox to disturb our process. Cool. So let's type in identical docs. We're doing this live. Identical docs.co.za. I don't intend to make these videos long. This is when something is bigger and wants me to focus, on key or almost every key component that makes up the feature. Okay, so I need to authenticate myself as a test1 account. Wait, I need to do something. Let me log in as administrator. I was thinking of new admin, and this is insane, ridiculous, long password that you can never know ever. I need to do something as administrator for this account I'm about to use. So let me go to users. There's something I need to temper when it comes to test one. See, this test one, I want to rename the account. I want to see if it's possible. Edit. No, I cannot rename the username. I want to test this. Okay, it's fine. Let me log out as admin. So let's log in as test1 account. So test1, and this is the password for test1. So You see, test 1 is authenticated successfully and test 1 has access to access PIN. Before I do that, let me show you all the businesses that test 1 owns. In total, there are 11, and I want to use this business called Kakishola Papers. This one, it's a demo one, Kakishola Papers, right? It's already online and it's not deleted. So in total, there are 11 businesses. Why it's so important? Because I mean, what you see here on the home page, you see the Kakishola Papers. We're gonna do this, right? We're gonna cover everything. How did I get the map? How do I type that business number? Everything. We're gonna get to it. But for now, I want to go to access PIN, where it says warning. There's no active access PIN. Therefore, you need to generate one for use on the Identical Docs app. This is not just there, it's there for this app. That's why whatever I typed previously could not work, because there's no active. There's no way this test one client can use this part of the system. There's no way, because it's not active. So we did cover why this. Please watch wherever there's access PIN on my YouTube channel playlist. So it says you need to generate a new access PIN below to authenticate yourself in order to listen or leave the customer voice messages. Okay, so the number of the businesses, those 11 businesses, here they are. All they should be 11. Are they 11? Seems like they're not 11. They're supposed to be 11. Oh, I know why. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, now there are 11. Okay, so, but there's a bug here. You know why I want to count? There's a bug. I want to go back to this. I just identify a bug. These businesses, some of them are not online. So why should they be populated here? You cannot interact with email business name if it's not online. Also, if there was a business that was deleted, you should not interact with it. I hope I'm making sense, but it's fine. Let's go back. I just identify a bug. So we're going to interact with Kakishola Papers, right? This is the business number IGHQ. If this failed, it's because there's bug that I cannot fix. Oh, not it's a lie. The router is still working. There's a time where it fails. I don't know why, but I know there's a known bug. But I'm glad it still works. So it says succeeded. You have generated access PIN. That's access PIN, but I can still say it here. There we go. It says there's currently an existing and active access PIN at the bottom that you can use to authenticate yourself on that Identical Docs app. You can also generate another access PIN for other businesses as well. So what I want to do is this. I want to copy this. There's no need that I copy. I just need to type in IGHQ. It's case insensitive. It doesn't matter. I can make Q capital. It doesn't matter. It's case insensitive. And then access PIN. Well, this one. It's valid for 24 hours. Let me paste it here. Okay, and then let's go and enter it. We've gone through process of validations, right? So it's I'm gonna make 2 intentionally. W, a lower F, a lower A, lower K. It's case sensitive, but it's gonna fail. Wait, what did I click? I know I clicked something wrong. Wait, where are you? Sorry about that. Authenticate. See, still failed because 2 is incorrect. But if I go back and say now it's gonna be 1 R1 WFAK, it's exactly what we see here. Cool. So as soon as I enter this, it's gonna become success, and that's how it works. There we go. That's success. This is going to be the next thing that we cover in our next video. I'm exhausted right now, but I intend to do it because it's a short one. No, let's do this Monday. I'm exhausted. We'll cover this. I don't want to read, but just know that it was navigated to voice messages where the user can listen or create a voice message. We're going to cover everything. So for now, I'm glad that my systems are still working, to show integration. So this is what the students at CUT currently are going to be tasked to do, to build an integrated system. Because this is MVC, there's Web API behind the scenes, and of course there's a Xamarin application live. Everything is live. This is not a demo. I'm just using Visual Studio to do this. Oh, another thing I want to show about this feature is that you cannot generate a new access pin for the same business. Calculation papers. If I do this, it's going to say, hey, wait, there's already an active access pin. Therefore, you cannot generate access pin for calculation papers. And what it does, it continues to show you access pin. But I can generate for a new one, Sunday's services, and then generate for Sunday's services. There we go. So this is for Sunday's services. 3B. But if I go back to calculation papers, it's still active. And if I do this, it's going to say you can't do that. And it shows you an active access pin. And all this information is on a database, by the way. Lastly, if I go back to Sunday's services, it will refuse because it's active. There we go. And then lastly, something on the side, I like to show that on the administrative side. So let's go back as administrator, and you can see it's very fast, and I love that. My laptop is very, very fast. Again, insane, ridiculous, long administrator password. There we go. I'm authenticated. Go into the tasks and go to access pins to see those two generated. As you can see, access pin was generated Friday 17th, today being the 17th of September. Time 16:34, a couple of minutes ago. As you can see, for this business ID, I still need to change this to be business name. There's a little bit of bug there. And then for this business, okay, let me show this in a new tab. There's a reason why. For Sunday service, I just need to track this based on Friday, that 5VR 1GF, also 1637. So I do keep track of them. So the very first one was this one, and as administrator I can see for which business, because I built it for it to be easier for me. See, calculation papers, I can see who owns it, blah 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 blah. I just want to show that flexibility. And also for Sunday services, if I just click here, open a new tab, it shows me for which business. There we go. So that's why I want to show that yes, they are on a database. So this is a fully integrated system, and I'm happy that I built this all by myself, no help. CUT did not teach me. CUT doesn't teach these things. CUT just wasted my money. Let me speak for myself. Just waste money. Can log out. We'll talk about this. And logged out. Now I'm back on the setup page again. And then as I'm logged out, go back. Now I have to authenticate again. But with the same, let's do that. Wait. Was it? I still copied it, right? Yes, there we go. I can even dismiss the application. Let's dismiss the application completely to show you that it's still there. It's gone. And then launch it again. Let me close the Visual Studio in the meantime, so we won't need it. We are done for today. I hope you are giving yourself enough time. Well, I'm sorry. This guy, okay, let me do it again live so it can be evident that I'm doing this thing correctly. To show you that everything is still working just fine. Splash screen, doesn't matter. So I'm a business or store owner, that's a client. And I'm gonna paste because I still copied it. Paste. And then I'm gonna enter. IGHT, it's incorrect intentionally so that it shows that, hey, you don't know this. It vibrates. There we go. But if I make it Q or a lower Q, it's fine. Now it works. I am authenticated. Thank you very much. You see? Good stuff. Good stuff. Listen, I hope this video was everything. Subscribe. Tell everybody I'm good. Tell everybody. If you are a recruiter and you're watching this, please hire me. I'm damn good. I built this all by myself. Thank you very much. Until next time.